Hello everyone, welcome back. This is the second video for this channel. Again, I found that after doing research for this video, making a complete analysis of every facet of a company the size of Facebook would lead to a video taking hours and hours to finish. In the course of this video, I am going to outline the major factors that investors see as potential hurdles in Facebook growth and why I believe that in spite of these, the company still has massive potential going forward. Facebook is the living ideal of every tech entrepreneur and one of the biggest examples of a modern rags to riches success story in a company. The social network started as a niche social media site for college students out of a dorm room, and in the past decade and a half has become one of the world's largest, most impactful companies. The company has exceeded nearly everyone's expectations for growth for the past 15 years and now has over 2 billion active monthly users just on its main platform. Before we go into the next part of the video, I'll explain a basic overview of Facebook's business model. Facebook makes money off of user attention and engagement. Over 90% of Facebook's revenue comes through a combination of direct ad purchases for its different platforms, along with data sales for companies. As of the first quarter of 2019, these sales generated over 15 billion US dollars. The company has some of the biggest and best data aggregating algorithms, and in recent years has created one of the most targeted systems for finding out what products and services users of the website would be most likely to have interest in. A combination of improving algorithms and more new ways in which people can engage with Facebook and her component platforms means that Facebook seems to be able to generate more income per active user per year. Roughly a year ago, there was a major crash in Facebook's stock value after what appeared to be a less than stellar earnings report. One of the biggest reasons for fears among investors was the fact that Facebook's operating costs went from $6.5 billion to over $11.7 billion, a percentage increase outpacing her revenue increases in that year. I saw a few reasons why the operating costs for Facebook are increasing. First, with fears about cybersecurity and data safety, Facebook likely had to expand her cybersecurity and data protection teams. Due to scandals such as Cyber Analytica, any sort of breach in user privacy or data leads to a great deal of negative press coverage and brings in the possibility of yet another threat, regulation. Governments may try and limit the data sales of Facebook and limit her growth. Ethical conflicts and their legal ramifications likely mean that Facebook has to put in more work expanding her legal and PR teams. There are also fears about limited potential for user growth, especially in Western countries. Finally, new competitors may reduce user engagement for Facebook or replace the platform entirely if they are able to appeal to new users. As bad as data breaches and scandals along these lines have and are bad for Facebook, much of their impact has been overstated. As much as users in theory have issues with their data being sold and their privacy violated, there hasn't been that much evidence of these scandals really slowing down Facebook. Facebook is somewhat addictive in nature, and there are a lot of social connections to the platform that people find important in their lives that they would otherwise not have without the platform. In addition, many consumers likely don't even know what other websites, apps, or other services are owned or ran through in conjunction with Facebook. A consumer that has an issue with Facebook may switch to another primary social media site, but there's a good chance Facebook could very well own the platform. For instance, while many scandals happened in the news media regarding Facebook's main platform, WhatsApp and Instagram, all subsidiaries of Facebook, continued to post rapidly increasing user bases during the time period. Finally, even on Facebook's main platform, in the direct wake of Cyber Analytica, the earnings report only showed a 1% decline in the amount of users, and this was mainly in Western countries, on the face of roughly a 30% decline in the stock's value, which I personally saw as an overreaction by the market. Another major fear of investors in Facebook is what regulation could do to limit the platform and hurt potential growth. In the news, it seems like every month Facebook is forced to deal with some political issue or testify before Congress. In spite of all this, regulation isn't going to do as much as one might expect. First of all, Congress is very polarized, and the main gripes with the platform differ on party lines. Conservatives tend to find issues with perceived censorship and a liberal bias on the platform and its content, while liberals tend to knock Facebook for giving platforms for hate speech and allowing for foreign interference in our elections. There is a very small amount of middle ground that both parties can likely agree on how to limit the platform. Even if in some case an agreement was reached between the two political parties, many politicians likely don't even know how to begin to know enough about the platform to effectively regulate it. The company is so large and has so many subsidiaries and connections that even if someone had unlimited power, it would be almost impossible to stamp out every way in which the platform arguably acts unethically or goes about collecting and processing user data. I personally see it almost as kind of game of whack-a-mole because Facebook is now has so many different connections with the internet and different businesses. I just don't even know where you'd begin to regulate it. Um, as a result of that, I think it'll just be a real tough battle to even begin to think of a solution in a way that could severely impact Facebook and its operations going forward. One of the biggest overlooked advantages Facebook has is what I like to call the incumbency advantage. Facebook is a free service, so in theory it seems like it's super easier for a user to jump ship to another platform, and that customer loyalty would be an issue. There were definitely fears at one point or another that Facebook would end up like MySpace or other forgotten social media platforms. In spite of this, there are a few things that Facebook has done masterfully that will keep users around, as far as we can see. First of all, there are over 2 billion active users. Now, what does that actually mean? This means that in terms of being able to connect with the most possible people on one given website, Facebook has a massive advantage. Advertisers know this, businesses know this, and it creates basically a cycle where businesses will advertise on Facebook, and at the same time will also promote usage of Facebook, and then vice versa. As a result of this, websites, businesses, and apps often use a Facebook account as a prerequisite means of even creating an account on their platforms. In addition, a user's familiarity with the platform and the emotional investment in timelines and other social media features, that draw to the past and like your entire social circle, I think are another major key that Facebook has in terms of being able to keep users engaged in the long term going forward, even if users move to other Facebook subsidiary platforms associated with the main company. In the worst case scenario, where a user actually does move platforms, Facebook has enough money on hand to acquire any company that could remotely be a threat. Facebook's acquisition of WhatsApp and Instagram have helped them keep up with competitors such as Snapchat and have played a major role in hurting Snapchat's performance as of late. As of now, Facebook has over $45 billion in liquid cash, and that's more than enough money to basically acquire or stamp out any sort of upstart social media company that Facebook would have to contend with in the next few years. The final main fear of investors is that Facebook is simply running out of new people to get onto the platform. In the US and Western world, there's definitely some truth to this point, as pretty much anybody in the US that would want to have a Facebook account most likely already has it. In the US, there are about 170 million people, about 2/3 of the US population, that have created a Facebook account. So what this means is basically anybody from the age of 15 up until 70 plus has a Facebook account. So investors are right to fear that, at least in the Western world, there is limited growth, at least on the Facebook main platform. On the other hand, outside of the first world, the potential for growth is still massive. For instance, India's population is expected to number over 1.5 billion people in the next century. If Facebook usage rates are even half what they are in the US, that should mean that just in India, you're adding at least 300 million users. If India's usage of Facebook rates equal that of the US as it stands right now, it'll be over 1 billion people just in that single country on Facebook. Now, in Africa, it gets even better for Facebook. So by the end of the century, there are supposed to be expected to be over 4 billion people in the continent. And as internet access expands, I think that Facebook could definitely take a lot of advantage of that in getting more user base out of that continent. So let's say Facebook, in a worst case scenario, only gets 25% of the people in that continent on the platform, that have access to the internet. Well, that would still mean that Facebook is able to add 1 billion new users to its platform. So just in these two countries here, you're nearly doubling the size of Facebook's user base, and that's in basically a worst case scenario explanation. And that's not even accounting for population growth elsewhere in the developing world, in Southeast Asia, for instance, in the Middle East, and other sorts of places along those lines. So as a result of this, along with like Facebook's other like developing and like new platforms, I think that like finding new users should not be a problem for Facebook at all, at least for the next few decades. Finally, Facebook has begun to realize that diversification is able to help its business and add a lot more streams of revenue. So right now, Facebook, a lot of its added costs are from additional R&D into new different departments. So for instance, in this last year, Facebook has unveiled a new dating app called Facebook Dating. So this app gives Facebook a lot of potential to take a bite out of the market share owned by apps and websites such as like Tinder and Bumble and things along those lines. And then also be able to give Facebook another source of being able to garner user data to sell off to advertisers. Another new project that Facebook is beginning to expand its involvement is investments in cryptocurrency. If you would have checked in the news recently, most somewhat controversial, Facebook is developing a Libra cryptocurrency. There's a lot of potential with that for Facebook to add that as another revenue stream and basically allow Facebook to have some of the role that PayPal plays. Already, you can send money transfers through Facebook Messenger. This, I think I see Facebook as trying to copy off WeChat's model, where WeChat is both a social media site and also acts as a payment app. So if major businesses are willing to partner with Facebook, Facebook could be kind of a second wallet for people to use, and then Facebook could make money off transaction fees. That could be another major source of revenue for Facebook, just as a way that it's not overly dependent on advertising as a way to make money. And then finally, Facebook owns the Oculus VR company. So what that allows it to do is, as virtual reality becomes more of a generally mainstream accepted technology, I see a lot of potential for Facebook to use this as a way to increase user engagement and further integrate people with Facebook and its subsidiary platforms, and then also potentially gain new users and a lot of different new uses. So in summary, in spite of the fact that Facebook has a lot of challenges it's facing right now, I still think that by and large the stock is a buy because it just has so much money on hand right now and just so much potential and established clout that I would be really shocked if it didn't continue to rise in value for the time being. Obviously in the news media, Facebook's being battered, but I think that a lot of the attacks on the stock are definitely being overhyped. I think in the next few years, like investors will catch on to that. And I think that like Facebook should definitely continue to increase making more money, getting more users, and still for the time being, be the world's largest social media platform. Thank you so much.